Hello everyone, this is Ron from High Tech Legion, and this is a Corsair 400R mid-tower case, and it is part of Corsair's Carbide series, which is their more affordable mainstream lineup of cases. They started with the release of the 800D, which is part of the Obsidian series, a high-end full tower case, but they have also released a Graphite series and the Carbide series, which are lower in price but still features that Corsair quality and design. And as you can see here on the box, there is a quick preview of what the 400R looks like. And it's a mid-tower case, and it has a lot of features that are suitable for gamers. A better preview can be found on the other side of the box. Here's an expanded view of the internal and external components of the Carbide Series 400R mid-tower case. You can see that there are features that are aimed for gamers, not just as a typical mainstream PC user. Here you can see there are 8 PCI expansion slots, perfect if you want to run up to Quad CrossfireX or Quad SLI. You can have 4 dual slot video cards. Also have the hard drive caddies in there, and a dust filter for the bottom part. And also the fans are included. You have a 120mm fan at the rear and 220mm fan in the front for intake. Also have a optional mounting fan for the sides, 120mm and 140mm for the side panel. Same with the top. And one more, actually there is the bottom mounted power supply and ground mounted water cooling holes. On the side, you will find a table of specifications in multiple languages containing pertinent information about the Carbide Series 400R mid-tower case. In here, it states that it measures 20 inches by 8.1 inches by 19.8 inches in length, width, and height, and that it is made of steel with pieces of plastic internally for some of the components and the front bezel. And the color is graphite gray and black for this particular model that we are reviewing, and it supports 4 5¼ inch drive bays externally, and it supports 6 3½ inch or 2½ inch drive bays. And it also includes, as mentioned in the back and the preview, it has 120mm fans in front, a pair of them for intake and 1 in the rear. Now in here it mentions that the front fans actually have white LED lighting on them when powered on. And we already looked at the expansion slots, 8 expansion slots. Motherboard supports ATX and micro ATX. Now as for the front I/O, supports USB 3.0. There's a pair of them instead of the standard USB 2.0 compared to other mainstream cases. And there's an on and off switch for the LED. You have the Firewire, which is not very common these days, but Corsair included it in the 400R mid-tower case. Also for audio, you have a headphone and microphone. And it supports standard ATX power supply mounting at the bottom. Now let us open up the case and see what the Carbide Series 400R mid-tower case looks like. Inside you will find a documentation containing the RMA service and warranty information, and a quick start guide on how to install components inside your Carbide Series 400R mid-tower case. On the front you will find a power button, a hard drive activity LED, a pair of USB 3.0 ports, a microphone and headphone jack, a Firewire port, a reset button, and an LED on and off switch. There are also 4 5¼ inch external drive bays that are meshed for airflow. The front panel can be removed by pulling from the bottom, which reveals a pair of 120mm intake fans, which light up a white LED. The entire front panel is completely removable, and as you can see, the locks are actually made of metal. Unlike most cases which use plastic and can break off, the Corsair Carbide 400R mid-tower case is actually a lot more durable. And the front intakes also have filters behind them. as well as the 5¼ inch drive base. A closer look reveals a very high quality paint job on the 400R steel body. You can see the graphite style gray finish, which looks textured but is actually very smooth to the touch, in contrast to the black plastic on the left side, which is part of the bezel, which looks smooth but is actually quite textured. At the top you'll find a convenient carrying handle for transporting your Carbide Series 400R mid-tower case. And there is also a mounting area for mounting a pair of 120mm or 140mm exhaust fans at the top. Because of the spacing of these mounting holes, you can mount a 240mm dual fan radiator for your water cooling setup, and you can also mount Corsair's own H100 self-contained CPU liquid cooling solution. Note that the 120mm mounting holes are grommeted for convenience. Underneath, the Corsair Carbide 400R mid-tower case is elevated ½ inch off the ground so that it can gather enough airflow for the bottom-mounted power supply intake and the optional 120mm fan in the middle. And the dust filter is removable, easily sliding it out of place and periodically cleaning it so you can have optimal cooling for your internal components. The left side panel has a pair of mounting holes for mounting a pair of 120 or 140mm intake fans, and similar to the top, the 120mm fan mounting holes are grommeted for convenience. Although unfortunately this time you cannot mount a 240mm water cooling radiator because of the way the mounting holes are spaced out. The right side panel, although lacking the fan mounting options of the left side panel, shares the same extruded aesthetic, which also serves as additional space when routing the cables onto the back of the motherboard tray. There is a single pre-installed 120mm exhaust fan in the rear, and in case you want to upgrade the cooling later on, you can use the 140mm fan mounts. At the bottom part of the rear you will find 8 ventilated PCI expansion slots, 4 grommeted water cooling holes, and a bottom-mounted power supply area. Like most mainstream cases these days, the side panels for the Corsair 400R is secured by thumb screws. Unlike other designs, however, the Corsair thumb screws used in the 400R actually stay in place with the side panels, so you'll never have to ever lose a thumb screw again. With the side panel removed, you can see just how much space you can use inside the Corsair Carbide 400R mid-tower case. You can fit in a full-size ATX or a micro ATX case, and you can fit in up to 4 5¼ inch devices, as well as 6 3.5 inch or 2.5 inch hard drives. The 8 PCI expansion slot covers are secured by thumb screws and are reusable. The power supply mounting area is located at the bottom with ventilation facing downwards, and there are also 4 rubber-ended standoffs that hold your power supply in place. An optional 120mm or 140mm intake fan can be installed right in front of the power supply area. At the lowermost hard drive caddy of the 400R, you will find a white box that contains the accessories you can use on the Corsair 400R mid-tower case. Just open it up. Let's check it out. You have a USB 3.0 header to a USB 2.0 header converter, just in case you have an older motherboard which does not have a USB 3.0 header yet. And also find cable management accessories, and various screws for installing your components inside the Corsair 400R mid-tower case. You have single screws for installing SSDs to the 3.5 inch hard drive caddies, power supply mounting screws, motherboard mounting screws, motherboard standoffs, additional ones, and fan mounting screws. As for internal connectors, just take a look at what the front panel connectors look like. Here you have a 20-pin USB 3.0 header. You have a firewire header. You have your HD audio header and LEDs and switches, and for your hard drive, and your reset switch and your power LED and power switch. You can see that the polarity is marked in the LEDs. And also the fan in the rear uses a 3-pin fan header there. With the right side panel removed, we can see that the two front pre-installed fans are connected by a two-way 3-pin splitter, and the LED controls for the front use a 4-pin Molex power connector. Behind the right side panel, you'll find a very large aftermarket CPU backplate cutout. Should be compatible with most motherboard designs, and there are also plenty of cable routing options for specific cables you use for your components. For example, here on the upper right hand corner, you can route an 8-pin or a 4-pin CPU power connector, and here at the bottom you can route your front panel audio connector, which is usually located at the lowermost area of most motherboard designs. And there are also grommeted cable routing holes, 3 for your drives and 1 for your power supply at the bottom. And as you can see, these grommets really stay into place even if you're putting a lot of traffic in that area. They won't just move around, and they really keep the cables neat and organized. And there are also plenty of room here for routing extra cables, especially here at the left side behind the hard drive bays, just in case if you have a non-modular power supply. So let's start assembling our components inside the Corsair Carbide 400R mid-tower case and see how well it performs.